All right, so I am going to live stream Code Whisper today, and I'm going to do it in Visual Studio Code, but local Visual Studio Code. And it's actually very impressive to do stuff with Code Whisper now because of the fact that it has multi-line completion for Rust. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I'm going to share my screen here and start coding. So I have some code here that I actually was using Code Whisper to help me out with, but let's just double check here how you install everything. So AWS, you go to the toolkit, and then if we go through here, you would just set up Code Whisper, and you can see that it's actually running right now. In fact, you can see that's checked at the bottom right here, Code Whisper. So I don't have any other coding assistants like, for example, GitHub Copilot. I'm actually using Code Whisper. Now, the thing that's pretty cool about Code Whisper is that you can do some really interesting things inside of here, including building Rust code, etc. So one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to actually build out some stuff with the actual Rust DynamoDB library. And I think that would be a good way to kind of start things. So we can actually go through here and we can say cargo new, and we can say Rust Dyno. Let's just keep it simple. And if I cd into Rust Dyno, we can actually also cp maybe a make file here. And if we look inside of here, what are we going to need in order to work with it? So we're going to need to actually load the SDK. So I'm going to go to another repo I have off screen, and I'm going to find some SDK code, which should be able to help us out. And let's go ahead and grab some of that. So the thing that we'll need to do is add in the some of this dependency code here. So for the AWS SDK, it's going to be AWS config, AWS SDK DynamoDB, and then Tokyo, which is async library, which lets us do async stuff with Code Whisper. Now, the part that's pretty cool is that I can just type in cargo run, and it should be able to just slurp in all of those dependencies for me. Now, DynamoDB is definitely a little bit tricky to work with just in terms of getting stuff set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically precede it with some stuff that will potentially help us out, right? Which is, if we look here, what I'm putting inside of here is DynamoDB code for creating tables, for example, etc. Now notice that these are going to be unused imports, which is exactly correct, right? We're using unused imports because we haven't done anything yet. And in addition, I'm going to have to actually start coding in, different components of this. So the thing that I would actually do is actually build out now my structure. So we're gonna have to make this an async main here. So we do know that. So we can actually change that. We can say, Tokyo main. Pretty nice completion here from Code Whisperer. We also need to obviously make this async, right? Because that's the way the API works. And there also would return back a different type as well. And we can actually maybe just keep that as a placeholder for right now. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to need to put some operations here. So I probably, to start with, we could do create table would be a good one. So let's go ahead and build an async create table. And look, we have some pretty good completion here for that. Some of the things that are a little bit tricky when you're creating the table include that you're going to need to have a bunch of schema, set up here. So because this is the trickiest part of the code. I'm just going to precede it with some code I know works. So if we walk through here, we can see that there's the client. Here's the username attribute. Here's the schema, the pre-provisioning, the code as well. And then also we have requests right here, right? So we can see here that we're able to build out create a table in DynamoDB. Perfect. Now the thing that would potentially be all I care about initially would be to also maybe build out a delete table as well. So let's actually build a delete table. So if I said async, let's do a delete table here. And this looks pretty good because the table name is actually stored right here. So I think this is enough, in fact, to do what I need to do. So all I would need to do now is we could just put some comments like, create a table, then wait for 10 seconds and delete it. Right. This looks like a pretty good operation. So first step, what we'll do is we'll say create table await. That looks good. Wow, that was actually pretty cool. Now, probably should add a print here, though, just to make it more clear what's happening. So we can do print ln. We can say creating table here. And then we can do a sleep here. So I would say probably sleeping would be the next thing. Or actually, let's just add the sleep right here. Creating table and sleeping 10. And then we can say right here, print ln, we can do deleting table. Yeah, kind of bummer that no, like that's one of the things that's a little annoying about Code Whisper is that it doesn't really let you pick only one line, right? It kind of gives you an all or nothing. But it's you can work around it. So here we go. We've got this cooking. So let's go ahead and do cargo run, or actually let's just format the code, right? Always a good idea when you're using Gen AI is format the code here. And then we can type in cargo run and let's see what happens. We wait for 10 seconds. We could even go to here real quick, go to resources. So it looks like the code works. Now let's see here. Inside of DynamoDB, see this, how it says no resources found? Because it was able to delete it. But let's watch it actually create the code, the table, and then delete the table. So we go here, it's going to create it. So we have 10 seconds to view the table. We refresh. It should see the table customers. Yep, there we go. And then it's going to delete it. There we go. And then we actually see that it's gone if we refresh it. It's gonna be nuked. So we do have a round trip here in Rust, and all of it was made possible through Code Whisper. So not bad, actually. In fact, so I'll go ahead and just go up a level here, and let's just double check our git ignore is not going to check in weird stuff. Let's see here, target. I think that's going to be good. Here, if we just say git add Rust Dino, adding Rust Dino example. So yeah, not bad. That was a pretty good example of some of the stuff you can do with Code Whisper. Now, what would be cool next is to actually build a bash-based example of the same thing that we did. So let's do that now. So how would we do this? Let's just make a bash script, basically. So we can say touch, we can call this Dino bash, which is one of the cool things about Code Whisper. So we would do a shebang line here, right? So we'd just say user bin env bash, and then we could even put a comment that just says, this code does CRUD operations on a Dynamo table. And so we can actually probably get some pretty good suggestions from DynamoDB here. Also, we would want to chmod plus x this. So let's see what happens. So let's first up and say we would actually do a create a table for customers. Okay, look at this. Pretty cool. Table name, customers, attributes. Looks pretty good. Customer email, phone. I think that's good enough. We can. It would be nice to just end it there. And if we look at, so sometimes if you get stuck here, it's great to have some examples to refer to. So we can do here, we can do -- key schema, and that looks customer ID would be the key that we care about for at least for the hash, and then we have range for the others. And I don't think we need that one. I think that's good enough. And then we would do next here, provision throughput. And we could just do something simple. There we go. Looks good. All right. So that looks like probably what we would want. So let's try it. Let's just go and we'll just say here, Dino Bash. Does it work? Does anything work? Uh-oh. So we have a validation. Member must have a length less than or equal to 2. Create table. Table name customers. So we see when calling create table, one validation error occurred value. Members have length less than or equal to 2. Oh, key schema element. Field members must. That's an interesting one. Well, what we could do is make it less, just to keep things simple. Let's try this. Let's just nuke basically almost everything. And let's just keep it simple. And we'll just go through here. And let's try a more simple version. How about that? Okay, there we go. So there's some kind of weird issue in the schema that I don't care about. And if we go to DynamoDB now, we refresh it, we see that, in fact, we have customers. Not bad. So next, now that we got something cooking, we should basically, well, to make things less complex so that we don't run all over ourselves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these actually separate functions or separate bash scripts. So we're going to move Dino Bash and we're going to call it table. We're going to call this create table Dino. There we go. That looks better. And then let's make a new one and we'll call this list table. Touch list table.sh. So now we could just copy some of our stuff here. Bin bash lists all tables in DynamoDB. Looks good. No, I don't think we want it exactly like that. I think we just care about that. That's what we want. So if I chmod plus X this, and we say list tables, there we go. We have one table inside of DynamoDB. And then I can go to the next operation, which would be, let's make an item in there. So we'll do that. We'll say touch. I guess it would be put item .sh. So let's go here, bin bash, put one item into the customers table, and we can do put item, and it's going to be the table name obviously is going to be customers, and then the item file. Now this is pretty cool that if we wanted to, we could actually feed it a JSON file, but for simplicity's sake, I mean, well, it's an interesting question actually, whether it would be easier. I'm gonna try this. Let's try this out. Let's say touch customer.json, and then we want to actually to put this in here. So we would be I always forget the comments inside of JavaScript. Let's see here, comments in JSON. Can you do comments inside of JSON? I forget. I don't think you can. But let's try this. Item, customer ID, first name, last name. But we just want basically customer ID here. I think that's all we care about. And I guess we could put a name in there too. No, we could put a name in there. So we could in fact do something like this. We could throw this in there, item, and we can go here, escape this. Woo. Just do that. Something like that. Now I am curious, if I just took this and I put it into customer, would this be good enough? And does CodeWhisper, is it smart enough to know how to arrange this? I don't know. But I'll just start with that. And then we can do chmod plus X, put item. Missing the customer ID in the item. Am I missing the customer ID in the item? Let's see here. I think we do have the customer ID. Let's try one more time. I think that's all we need. Let's try one more time. When calling put item, one or more parameters missing the key customer ID in the stream. I see the customer ID. Oh, is it the name incorrect here? If I go back to when I created the schema, create table, it's customer ID looks like that. So that does look correct. Or am I? It's a slight. How about that? Is that the issue? Oh, okay, that was the issue. So, got one more thing working. Now, if we go to AWS and we go here, we can just see the schema of it. It doesn't seem like you can query it or anything, which would be helpful if you could query it here, but we got another one down. So now I just need to get an item. So let's do that next. We're actually, let's just be a little bit thrifty here in terms of time, and let's actually just make a scan table. So we'll say touch scan table like that. And let's just get rid of all this stuff. Scan table, and we can do this, scan all records, in the customer table. No, scan all records. Scan Dynamo DB table customers. Okay, and so this is going to be AWS Dynamo scan. We have to give it the table name, and I think that's all we need. And if I chmod plus exit, scan table, there we go, scan table. Boom, there we go. So all Code Whisper. So not too bad. I think you can see you can do Rust, you can do Bash with it. Very, very compelling tool, to be honest, and it's completely free. So I would definitely check out Code Whisper. All right, that's it for this week.